Here are 12 European countries ranked from safest to riskiest, or riskiest to safest. I'll have to check my notes to see which order I put them in. But before we go ahead and get on into that, smash the like button, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And I'm recording this video in particular for digital nomads, expats, online entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, because I think this is a really interesting topic. Once again, like some of my other videos, inspired by an article I read, and I wanted to give my take on the subject because this article was initially for solo travelers, and I changed some of the places because they didn't really make sense, and I put in some places that are actually appealing to online entrepreneurs, nomads, so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and get on into this list. And I believe this list was using the Global Peace Index. So it's not just straight like the crime index. So that should give you a little bit more context if you're trying to do your own research and see where I got these numbers from. And a little bit more context, I believe the ranking for the United States was around 130. And I will also say, as a quick disclaimer, I didn't feel unsafe in any of the places that I am about to mention. So even though I might say, hey, this is the riskiest spot, didn't seem too risky to me. And some of these are absolutely going to shock you. And I'll get into why in a little bit because I don't want to spoil the list. So coming in at 12th place, we have Turkey. It was 139th place on the Global Peace Index. So it ranked lower than the United States, obviously. But once again, I didn't have any safety concerns when I visited Turkey, but you can also kind of get the feeling it's not like a super safe place. Although, once again, if you're in the nice areas, really nothing to worry about. And frankly, there was a place in the top 20 on this list, which is Belgium, that is supposedly relatively safe, right? It ranked in the top 20, I'm pretty sure. And the sketchiest experience, maybe in my entire life, well, not my entire life, but the sketchiest experience I ever had in Europe, for sure, was in Brussels. So it just goes to show how if you talk about a country, it doesn't really equate to the city or even the neighborhood that you're in. So that's something to be aware of. Anyway, next up is France, coming in at the 86th spot, which is relatively low, right? So not too safe, not too unsafe, but it's interesting because you get a lot of people talking about how unsafe Western Europe is, especially with like migration and things of that nature. Most of that I would say is probably in Paris because there's so much pickpocketing and stuff going on in that regard because of all the tourists that visit France every year. But mostly I put France in this list because I don't really talk about it that much and I don't particularly recommend it, although I like the French countryside. But I wanted to give you guys a little bit of context because everyone says France, super dangerous, comes in at 86, which is significantly better than the United States, and also obvious, which is significantly better than the United States. But next up, we have a significant jump to Albania, coming in the 42nd spot. This is interesting because when I was in Albania, people asked me, is it safe, blah, blah, blah. And per these rankings, it is relatively safe. Now, it's still towards the back end of these rankings. What is it? The 9th spot. But when you're in the top 50, do you really think you're going to be like, just like super worried about your safety, always watching over your shoulder? Not particularly. And that's, to be frank, one of my issues with some places in Latin America, which rank significantly lower on this list, is you do kind of have to be watching over your shoulder depending where you are and things of that nature. And there's some countries where it just doesn't matter where you are. You're gonna have to be watching over your shoulder, right? So Albania, I absolutely love Albania. I think it's a great place to go. I think it's really underrated and I would highly, highly recommend it. Don't think there's much risk involved. Next up, we have Greece coming in the 40th spot. Once again, Greece, a place I talk about a lot on this channel because I think it's an amazing place. Great weather, great food, a bit of a language barrier, but it is also kind of in that category where people go, oh, it's super dangerous, blah, blah, blah. Well, maybe not dangerous is the right word, but there's a lot of crime because of mainly what happens in Athens, because you have all these tourists and that obviously draws attention, pickpockets, so on and so forth. So most of this crime isn't going to be like violent crime. It's going to be pickpockets and theft and stuff like that. So really, you just need to be aware of your surroundings. Don't be like super flashy and just like make sure you don't get pickpocketed, right? Don't do stupid stuff. Just be aware and so on and so forth. Otherwise, you don't have a ton to worry about in Greece. That was one of the things that I got comments on, especially, well, actually, we'll save that for a little bit later in this video because I think some of you are going to be shocked here in a moment. Next up, Italy, kind of the same as Greece. Tons of tourists, obviously, in Rome, Venice, and some other places. And when you have a bunch of foreigners congregated in an area, you're going to have pickpockets because that's just how it is. That's also where most scammers are and things of that nature. So once again, I don't want to belabor the point too much because a lot of these places have the same problems. Now, here's where it's going to get interesting. Poland comes in at 32. Now, once again, interesting because depending on the videos you watch, this might shock you because everyone talks about, oh, Poland's super safe because there's no migration, blah, blah, blah. Well, coming in at 32 puts it in what? Sixth place? Seventh place? There are 6 places in this list, and a lot more in Europe, that are safer than Poland, despite the lack of migration and diversity and blah, blah, blah. But with that said, yes, Poland, safe, not going to have much to worry about. And if you're a guy or a girl, doesn't matter. You really aren't going to have many issues. Next up, Estonia, in an 8-point jump from Poland in the 24th spot. So I've talked about Estonia a few times on this channel, particularly Tallinn, because I think they've done some interesting things in regards to being tax friendly and just business friendly, and they've digitized a lot of stuff. They've also done some residency things to attract foreign investment and residency seekers. So I think Estonia is an up-and-coming option. And as Connor Klein puts it, he says they have the most models per capita in the world. So if you are interested in the tall, slender girls, Estonia might be your spot. Now, here is where some of you are going to be absolutely amazed. Spain comes in at 23. Spain, with all the migration, all the diversity, ranked higher than Poland. Isn't that just shocking? So everyone says, oh, you gotta avoid Spain because crime is out of control in Western Europe. Poland is the place to be. Which, this isn't a shot at Poland. I do like Poland. I enjoy Poland. But when I say I'd rather be in Spain, people say, oh yeah, but crime, blah, blah, blah. Someone's gonna pickpocket you, blah, blah, blah. Well, according to the Global Peace Index, Spain safer than Poland. Interesting. And to be frank, most of the reason I prefer Spain is because better food, better weather, and better beaches. But with that said, Spain kind of has the same problem as like Rome and those other places. Barcelona has tons of tourists come every year, and so you get tons of pickpockets in Barcelona. Now, is this violent crime? No. Is it relatively easy to deal with scammers and not getting pickpocketed? Yes. Use something like a money belt if you're that worried. And then you really don't have that many issues, although I will say in Barcelona, they do have like the protests against digital nomads and so on and so forth. But once again, I've told you guys multiple times, I think Madrid is a better city than Barcelona, although Barcelona does have quite a vibe during summer and it's on the beach and all that kind of good stuff. But Madrid just fits my vibe a little bit more. I think the people are classier. I think they're friendlier, and it's just a more luxurious vibe in my personal opinion and experience. Next up, we have Hungary in the 14th spot. Not a lot of commentary to be added there because I don't see a lot of commentary one way or the other in regards to Hungary. Once again, I do think it's interesting that Poland ranks the lowest of some of these more popular places per this list, but all the YouTubers are talking about how safe Poland is. Spain, Estonia, Lithuania, I think even Latvia ranked higher. Or maybe it was one spot below. Hungary, Czech Republic, which is the next place on this list, coming in at the 12th spot. So this is another great place to go if you want to be a solopreneur, nomad, entrepreneur, and not have to worry about your safety. Once again, I said I love Warsaw, I love Prague, but depends on the day. I tend to like Prague a little bit more. Once again, they are a lot different. Prague is more like old world kind of city, where Warsaw, big, modern, and somewhat new depending on where you are in the city. I absolutely love Prague. Although I will say it is probably more expensive than Warsaw, but Warsaw is shooting up in value constantly, so who knows. Then we have Slovenia, my beautiful Slovenia, because the boy is Slovenian. And I will say Slovenia is a bit boring. Well, Ljubljana is a bit boring, but I think it was named one of the greenest cities in the entire world. Super eco-friendly if you care about that stuff, but also super safe apparently. But like I said, it's a bit dull if you're looking for like the action, the nightlife, but Slovenians were super friendly, really enjoyed my time in Slovenia, and yeah, could be a good place. Then we have my beloved Portugal coming in at the number 7 spot. Once again, find it a little bit interesting. People always talk about how unsafe Western Europe is, but a lot of these places aren't particularly that unsafe. So you got to be really careful with the narrative coming out of some of these places, because a lot of you probably thought, ooh, I can't go to Spain. Ooh, I can't go to Albania. I can't go to Portugal because Spain and Portugal are in Western Europe. But they're perfectly safe, perfectly fine, and some of the best places to go to if you're a solopreneur, entrepreneur, nomad, doesn't matter. Absolutely great places to be. Once again, I made this video just to give you guys a little bit more context around safety, especially in Europe, because most people talk about how safe Poland is, which, once again, this is not a shot at Poland. A lot of these places are about on par with Poland, and a lot of them are significantly higher rated than Poland as well. Because I see a lot of people say, oh, I'm going to Poland because it's safe. But you have tons of other options that are more safe and, frankly, in my opinion, are just better places to live, because I would never want to deal with Polish winters, but to each their own. Anyway, we're going to wrap up the video here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and I will see you guys in the next video. And as always, peace, much love.